So, a bit of a weird twist in coronavirus news. A group of doctors, pharmacists, and health experts sent a letter to death penalty states asking them to release execution drugs to hospitals to treat patients with COVID 19. And as I can already sense the tinfoil hat brigade warming up with, they literally are trying to use the drugs they used to kill murderers on people with the virus. Bill Gates, 5G, Q told me this. I thought I might go ahead and slap that down early. So when someone is killed by lethal execution in most states, they aren't just shot up with a single needle and the execution is over. Usually they're given 3 different injections. The first is a sedative to keep people from freaking out because they are literally about to die. The second is a paralytic to ensure they don't move. And the third shot is the actual chemical that kills people. But even that shot, which is usually potassium chloride, wasn't designed to kill people. It's got like an actual medical use. Functionally, you're just given an overdose. So all 3 drugs aren't designed to kill, just turns out if you give somebody an overdose of a bunch of drugs, it'll kill them. These are some of the same drugs they use to calm people while they're put on a ventilator. That's what they were designed for. And as you may have heard, there are more than a usual number of patients being put on ventilators because of, everything that's going on. And unfortunately, and not surprisingly, there's a shortage of these drugs in the US. Why? Because we use them for executions. Yeah, it turns out while pharmaceutical companies aren't always the most scrupulous folks in the world, they don't particularly like their products being used to intentionally kill people. It's not good PR. So a lot of major drug manufacturers have limited sales of sedatives like midazolam to states that do executions. And in the case of some of the other drugs they used to use, they just stopped making them altogether so they couldn't be used in executions. I don't know if you've read any of the stories over the last couple years about these botched executions in the US. Those were mostly due to having to try out new sedatives because they couldn't get their hands on the old ones and they didn't figure out the dosages correctly. So a group of medical experts is asking that in the short term at least, departments of correction toss any stockpiles of those drugs over to hospitals to battle the outbreak. The response in Alabama so far has been to ignore the letter, and the state hasn't responded to inquiries about it by the Associated Press, which also isn't that surprising. The Alabama Department of Corrections is notoriously cagey about giving away info in regards to executions in Alabama. This is the same department that refused public information requests on the protocols they use for executions, like just generally like the schedule of when stuff is supposed to happen on an execution day, until they were ordered to do so by a court. So I don't see that department even admitting how much of a stockpile of the drugs they have, if they have a stockpile at all, let alone giving it away unless they get an order from on high. But Alabama isn't alone. Most states have ignored the letter, and the few that haven't said they don't have stockpiles of those particular drugs. And that's probably because they've been having to scrape to even get their hands on the drugs because, companies have put restriction on sales because of the executions. That's not even a new problem. It's been a problem for a while now. I remember about 9 years back, the DEA literally had to seize Georgia's stockpile of one execution drug because they had purchased it illegally, which is a weird story. So that's what's going on with that. If you were paranoid that they were going to be putting coronavirus patients into an electric chair. But, everything's a mess right now, so I guess you can just add that on top of the pile. I'm Jonathan Sobolewski for AL.com.